It's 1979. Pink Floyd just released The Wall. Sony just came out with the first Walkman for a whopping $200. And businessmen everywhere are about to have their minds blown. It wasn't because they dropped acid, picked up a Walkman, and started grooving to Pink Floyd. It was actually because of this guy, Michael Porter. This Harvard business professor wrote a paper called How Competitive Forces Shape Strategy, where he first coined the term competitive advantage, changing how companies considered competition forever. But what exactly is a competitive advantage, and how can you make the most of it? Welcome to ALUX. By definition, a competitive advantage is a condition or circumstance that puts an individual or company in a favorable or superior position. And this has been happening for thousands of years. In the beginning, our thumbs were a competitive advantage, but now it's a lot more complicated than that. When it comes to companies, a competitive advantage can come through a first mover advantage. Of course, being the first to bring anything to market will give you a leg up on those who come after. Things can also go favorably your way through a low-cost advantage. That's where you can deliver your product or service at a lower cost than your competitor and secure more sales as a result. Or it could be through something like proprietary technology. So when a company develops a brand new product, patents it, and then corners the market, which is exactly what Sony did with that Walkman back in 1979. Now, truthfully, the Walkman wasn't much a breakthrough in tech as it was in imagination. Most of the components were already in production or testing as part of other devices. All the design team had to do was get creative with their tech, stacking existing components, and voila, the first portable music player was born. Before discontinuing them in 2010, they'd sold over 400 million worldwide. Sony did the thing Michael Porter wrote about. It cornered its market through a key competitive advantage. But the executives might have put too much stock in what Porter had to say, because, as we all know, the Walkman lost to the iPod in the end. You see, Porter's paper talked about striving for sustainable competitive advantage. It sounds great, but it's just not real life. Things change, industries change, demand definitely changes. We saw the same thing happen with Netflix, going from the new guy to choking out Blockbuster and dominating the streaming market. They saw where things were going, and they created technology to take us there. But what happens after that? The whole thought of sustainable competitive advantage is really nothing more than a nice idea. An idea that Rita Gunther McGrath tore to shreds. She's a professor at Columbia School of Business in New York and one of the world's leading experts on strategy. So McGrath hit us with this. Competitive advantage is transient, not sustainable. And damn, okay, she's right. Netflix, they got to ride that wave alone for a couple of years. The tides started to turn for Netflix through the 2010s as others began to notice their successful model and start to copy it for themselves. Each of them managing to pull off its own bitch and bottom turn and charge into it. So, in a situation like this, how can Netflix hold on to its advantage? Amazon Prime already beat them in library size. That happened in January 2019. Netflix is putting up a damn good fight right now. They're still listed as the top streaming service with 200 million subscribers, and they've been voted to have the best original content of them all. I mean, have you seen The Circle? Talk about bringing some weird new shit to the market. Folks are eating it up. But how does any of this relate to you? Well, I mean, it doesn't really, but at the same time, it also actually does. Obviously, there are some pretty big differences between companies like Netflix and Sony and people like you and I. The thing is, though, there is some overlap. People can definitely approach their competitive advantage in the same way Sony did, by stacking their existing tech, in your case, skills, and bringing something truly unique to the market. Or with a Netflix approach, through being the first to take things in a new direction. But whichever method you choose to define your competitive advantage, you gotta watch out for one common trap. Working hard isn't a competitive advantage, especially when the odds are stacked against you. The key to really honing in on your personal competitive advantage is, and stick with us here, finding your favorite shit sandwich. So this colorful concept was put forward by American author Mark Mason, but I mean, with a book titled The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, none of us should be that surprised. So this whole idea hinges on the fact that everything sucks, some of the time. Even if you land your dream career, some parts of it are bound to be awful. The thought that you do what you love and nothing feels like work is just a load of crap. Honestly, everything comes with some kind of struggle or sacrifice. And the ones that you can endure, well, that's where you discover your personal shit sandwich, or advantage. What aspects of your industry are you able to tolerate better than the rest? Are you an artist whose drive is just totally unaffected by rejection? I mean, that's a major advantage as a creative person. Are you able to stay up all night long writing code? Because eating that sleepless shit sandwich will give you an edge over other developers. And if you want to be a star surgeon, being able to endure the 90-hour work week is a special kind of shit sandwich you'll need to eat in order to make it. All of this can be more eloquently summed up by one of this generation's leading entrepreneurial voices, Naval Ravikant. He said, when competing against the incumbent, better to focus on what they won't do, rather than what they can't do. Doing the thing that others won't do is easily the strongest place to start cultivating your personal competitive advantage. But there is one more piece to this disjointed puzzle. You are the only you, and that's an advantage too. There's no other person on this planet who thinks and acts like you do. Look at it this way. What's the competitive advantage of Kanye? There are others out there making music and working on collabs with companies. But Ye's advantage, on top of his musical talent, of course, literally comes from him being himself. There's quite literally no one like him or anyone capable of creating the way he does. So what is it about you that makes you stand out? What's the most useful way for you to be yourself? That's, that's a pretty big question, right? But it doesn't have to be a hard one. The more skills you learn and stack, the more knowledge you expose yourself to. It'll ultimately lead you to a place of deeply understanding yourself, who you are, what you're passionate about, what your hidden talents are, what shit sandwiches you like the best. We don't find our passions through thinking, we find our passions through doing. So go do some stuff, trial by fire, baby. The more compatible skills you stack around yourself, the more you'll be able to flesh out the idea of you. And this is important if you want to be your own personal version of Ye. Through this process, you become more you and more unique than ever before, which means you'll get to ride that wave a lot longer than those around you, because, well, no one can compete with you at being you. Before you go, we wanted to fill you in about something actually pretty relevant to what we're talking about today. We're launching our latest online course tomorrow called Learning Mastery, where we'll teach you how to learn new skills on your own, allowing you to stack advantages and be even more unique than you already are. Head to alex.com/courses and enroll today. See you on the inside, Alexer.